to understand whether SOSMA is being used for the purposes it was tabled in Parliament, we need to understand the ISA. When ISA was tabled, the then Prime Minister, Tun Abdul Razak, had given an assurance in Parliament that ISA would only be used to combat subversion and violence. And that is against communists then. And this, we got it from the Hansard. Were these promises kept? This is what our first Prime Minister has said. With regards to the use of ISA, of course at that time he has already retired, and he said that the whole purpose of ISA was to combat communism. And he says the cabinet members and himself had made a promise in Parliament that ISA will not be used to oppose opposition or any differences of opinion. That was the main purpose of ISA. Was these promises kept? We got a list of individuals who have been arrested under ISA for merely having a differing view from the then government. So the point is, the promises was not kept. Now, what was the promise of the government when SOSMA was tabled? This is a speech in Parliament made on 16th of April 2012, which is obtained from the Hansard. The promise of the government was, let me just read that for you all. Dalam kata lain, kita ingin merealisasikan potensi Malaysia bukan setakat menjadi negara demokratik, tetapi lebih daripada itu. Untuk melonjakkan tempatnya kepada kedudukan disegani di kalangan komuniti negara-negara yang menghormati hak asasi manusia. The current Prime Minister had told us in Parliament that he wants to make Malaysia a proud nation in the international world by assuring the world that we Malaysians respect fundamental human rights. Lantaran itu, inisiatif PTP ini bermatlamat bagi memastikan proses pembaharuan dan perubahan nasional dilaksanakan. So he wanted to move the country forward. Then he goes on to say this. By this amendment, because this was a time when the ISA was also abolished. ISA was abolished in 2011, and a few other acts together with the ISA was abolished in 2000.
Same time, through SOSMA.
Through SOSMA, okay. 2012. 2012. Thanks. Okay. He says, kita mahu mencipta sebuah Malaysia di mana prinsip hak asasi manusia dijunjung. Kebebasan individu untuk berhimpun secara aman dan untuk menyatakan pendapat secara terbuka diraihkan seraya kepentingan individu dan komuniti diimbangi. So the promise that was made was that there will be freedom to assemble peacefully. That was the promise that was made. That human rights will always be observed, and everybody can menyatakan pendapat secara terbuka. We can voice our opinions. That was the promise that was made when tabling SOSMA. Having said this, what was the reason that was put forth in Parliament for SOSMA? The reason was, he says that we no longer have the threat from communists. Ancaman komunis is no longer there. It has been diganti oleh ancaman keganasan antarabangsa yang berteraskan ideologi ekstremisme. So here he is saying that there's extremism in the international world, and we need SOSMA to curb that extremism in the country. For that reason, SOSMA was tabled. And there are further promises made. And one of the promises is seen in Section 4, Sub 3, where he says that nobody will be arrested and detained under SOSMA merely because of his political beliefs or political activities. Nobody will be arrested and detained merely because of the person's political beliefs or political activity. Of course, there's some caveat to that, which I will look at in the Act in a short while, but these were the promises made. So when SOSMA was enacted, what was tabled in Parliament, the Prime Minister promised that this is not to curtail freedom of opinion, freedom of expression, freedom to assemble peacefully. That was not the purpose. The promise was it is only going to be used for a particular purpose, which is to curb extremism, and the extremism that comes from the international shores into Malaysia. That was the promise that